Mushrooms are one of those things that they're so mysterious, but they're so good for you. And I think a lot of people, they shy away from them. So now we're going to tell you how you can cook them, how you can grow them, and how you can eat them with Julia Coffey. She's from MyCoterra Farm in Westhampton. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, sir.
Right here we have something that I think to a lot of people out there is going to look very foreign, but this is how mushrooms are grown. Take us through the process.
Okay, well, mushrooms are actually the fruit of the organism. The living growing structure that they arise from is called the mycelium. And on my farm I grow mushrooms on two different types of substrates. These three here are grown on sawdust that is supplemented with organic wheat bran and gypsum. And on my farm, I sterilize the sawdust and inoculate them in a lab environment.
But people can do it at home too. I see more and more these days there are kits. How does something like that work?
Well, the kits, the first part of the process is done for you. And you can buy them already colonized with the mushroom mycelium. So I'm starting to see more kits in the grocery stores for growing oyster mushrooms at home. And what you do with those is basically water. Mushrooms are very forgiving, and so
it's an easy grow.
Right. The mycelium is grown through the substrate, and you can see here with the shiitake, the mycelium actually locks it together into a solid block. And
now, roughly how much time is something like this going to take, and is it cost effective as opposed to buying them in a store as already made mushrooms?
Okay, well, to prepare these it takes about 2 to 3 months for the shiitakes, or about a month to a month and a half for these, the NAMEKO mushroom and the lion's mane here. However, once they're prepared, you can produce a crop of mushrooms within about a week to 2 weeks.
Not bad at all.
With the shiitake, you want to kind of simulate some environmental triggers. It helps them produce a more bountiful crop, and that's simply refrigerating and soaking, simulating the fall frost and rains.
Now, Julia, I'm stuck on portobello mushrooms. It's all I eat because I don't know a lot about other mushrooms. So you've brought different mushrooms with you today. Tell us about each one of these. Let's start with these mushrooms right over here.
Okay, these are the pearl oyster mushroom.
Okay.
They grow on pasteurized straw. I grow several varieties of oyster mushrooms, and the oysters are actually most similar to the button mushroom or the portobello, so they're a great candidate for substituting into those recipes you'd use those for.
You know, last week we had a hamburger, but instead of using a hamburger, it was just a big old portobello mushroom because it's a great source. It makes you full. It's a great source of a lot of good nutrients.
Wonderful source of protein, vitamin D, and a ton of micronutrients.
And a woodsy taste. But for people out there who don't know necessarily what a woodsy taste is, how would you describe a taste of the woods? Or is it just that? Is it woodsy?
It's kind of earthy, meaty. It's you really get a lot of meat protein flavor from it. Woodsy, it is kind of a taste of the woods.
Yeah, woodsy just tastes like woodsy. Now, what do we have over here?
That is a pink oyster mushroom. It's a relative of the pearl oyster mushroom. It is native to the tropical areas. It's got a little bit stronger flavor, I think, than some of the other oyster mushrooms. A little tougher consistency, so I cook it just a little bit longer to tenderize it. It is naturally that beautiful pink color. However, it kind of loses that color in cooking.
And apparently you can put that in soups and it tastes really great.
Soup, stir fry.
Now, lion's mane, this is what this one is, right?
That's the lion's mane
Look
mushroom.
amazing. If I saw this in nature, I wouldn't even get near it though, but this is a great edible mushroom that doesn't even look like one.
It's a native species. It grows on hardwood trees. It's from a group called the tooth fungi. They produce their spores on these little spines instead of gills like other mushrooms.
Now, what would you eat with those, or how would you prepare them?
Great, just cooked with butter and onions. It brings out a really rich lobster-like flavor.
Really?
And so you can just saute them simply like that. I like to do it over a low, medium heat and cook these relatively long. They can be a little tough if you don't cook them long enough.
Now, Julia, these here, they look like a different kind of pearl mushroom, is that right?
They are a subspecies of the pearl oyster mushroom. These I call the blue oyster mushroom. You can see that pretty blue-gray color. And they like to grow in cooler climates. I've been producing those all winter for my markets, and they're native to parts of Europe and Asia, places where it tends to be a little cooler. This spring has favored them quite well for me.
Now, these mushrooms, these grow into the ones that I think a lot of people at home know and love. What are these?
Those are the shiitake mushrooms. Those are one of the most popular gourmet mushrooms in the U.S. They're native to Asia, and they're one of my favorites. Out of the dozen species I grow, they're just one of my the best tasting. They're a good strong flavor, meaty texture, and all around good mushroom for a lot of recipes.
And now, Julia, just a quick word of caution to everybody out there. If people are going out and they're in the woods and they see mushrooms, you shouldn't pick them unless you know exactly what you're talking about.
It's incredibly healthy to be very cautious. You want to be sure to get experts' advice or help in identifying any wild mushrooms. You can make very deadly mistakes in foraging.
We don't want that.
No.
Well, Julia, thank you so much, but we're not done with Julia yet. A little bit later in the show, we're going to make a recipe with some of these mushrooms.